Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see about the Anglo-Saxon ages Christian or religious poetry. First, we have Cadman. The English monk Bede, popularly known as the Venerable Bede, in his Ecclesiastical History of England tells the story of Cadman, whom Abbess Hilda of Whitby called and made a monk there. He says that Cadman, by divine inspiration, was transformed from a state of tongue tied ineffectiveness, that is, he was not able to even talk properly, and he was transformed into a poetical ecstasy. Cadman is the first English national poet of our knowledge. He sang of many biblical events. His poems are tedious phrases of biblical stories. His works are books of Genesis A and B. The book runs to nearly 3,000 lines. The poet, after singing the praises of the Creator, gives a brief account of Satan's rebellion and Satan's expulsion from heaven. Then he relates the biblical story from the creation to the sacrifice of Isaac by Abraham. There is an interpolation of Genesis B which repeats the story of the rebellion of Satan in detail. It also tells the story of the temptation of Adam and Eve by Satan and their subsequent expulsion from the Garden of Eden. Then he has written Daniel. The poem is based loosely on the biblical story of Daniel and is found in the JAYA'S manuscript. It is a paraphrase of the first 5 chapters of the biblical book of Daniel. The author and the date of Daniel are unknown. Daniel, as it is preserved, is what we have is only 764 lines long. Then he has written Exodus, which is an alliterative poem in the JAYA'S manuscript. Exodus is not a paraphrase of the biblical book, but rather a retelling of the story of the Israelites' flight from Egypt in captivity and the crossing of the Red Sea in the manner of a heroic epic. And he has also written Judith and Christ and Satan. This Christ and Satan is a religious poem which consists of 729 verse lines and is contained in the JAYA'S manuscript. It is a kind of paradise regained and it has 3 sections: the fall of angels, the harrowing of hell, the temptation. Next, we have Cynewulf, who presumably lived in the 9th century, and we are sanguine of the authenticity of Cyne's poems because he has a tendency of signing his poems in runic alphabet. His 4 signed poems are Ellen, Juliana, Christ, the Fate of the Apostles. The other poems which are also attributed to Cynewulf are The Dream of the Road. And this is one of the earliest Christian poems in the corpus of Old English literature, and it is also an example of the genre of dream poetry. Like most Old English poetry, it is written in alliterative verse. Rood from the Old English word means pole, or more specifically crucifix. And preserved in the 10th century Vermilye book, the poem may be considerably older or even one of the oldest works of the Old English literature. Here the dreamer describes how he saw a vision of the bright cross brilliantly adorned with gems and goes on to narrate the story that he heard it utter. It is supposed to be Cynewulf's masterpiece produced out of his consummate artifact. And the book deals with a pathetic and tearful story of the road, which is actually the speaker of the poem. In the story, the road appears to the poet in his dream. The road sorrowfully relates his own story as to how it is hewn from a huge tree and given the shape of a rood. Moreover, the superhuman Jesus Christ is forced to carry the rood on his back, and ultimately the great man, that is Christ, is crucified in a most pathetic manner. When the poet penetratively observes the root, he realizes that a drop of blood is oozing from the root. The drop of blood is symbolically Christ's blood of sacrifice. The poem ends with the poet's sorrowful realization of Christ's most abominable crucifixion. The book is not an elegy, but it is notable for its pensiveness, subjectiveness, and reflectiveness. This book is a symbolic work of Cynewulf. And next we have the Phoenix. The composition of the book dates from the 9th century. It is an Old English Christian poem attributed to Cynewulf. It is based on a mythological story of the mythical bird by the name Phoenix. According to the story, the phoenix, which is a bisexual bird, resides in the Arabian desert. Only one bird lives in the whole world at a time, and this bird lives up to 400 to 450 years. At the time of its death, it soars high above and burns itself, and out of the ashes a new bird gets its birth. This is how the cycle of the life of the phoenix goes on. The story of the phoenix resembles the resurrection of the Christ. Christ sacrificed his own life for the betterment of humanity. In the same manner, one phoenix sacrifices its own life, giving existence to another. The poem is symbolically significant and works as the forerunner for the religious poetry of the successful ages. And then he has also written Andrews or Andreas and Guthlic. Andrews, Julina, Eileen, and Guthlic have been included in the volumes The Lives of Saints. If you have anything more to add on to what I've said, please write it in the comment box. Like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Thank you.